Maintaining a healthy lifestyle is not just about our physical health. We need to consider our emotional health as well. Emotional health issues don't discriminate. They can affect anyone, at any time, and for any reason.
Over the last several years, every now and then there'd be short instances of terrible panic and anxiety. If I got on a plane, for example, it would just be horrible for about 15 minutes. I'd panic, complete panic. I can't get off, like claustrophobic. And it would happen to me if I was on vacation up in Canada fishing, we're on an island or somewhere, and I wake up in the middle of the night in a full-blown panic because I can't get off.
Ever since I was a little kid, I suffered from anxiety. For some odd reason, I was always getting nervous. I would always end up crying for some reason or another. A lot of times, one of the first major times I can think about it was when I was 8 years old. We were at a soccer practice, and as a warm-up, we'd have to do 3 laps around this half-mile track. For some odd reason, my chest started tightening. My breathing got really rapid, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. Tears were streaming down my face, and I was gasping for air the whole way around, and nobody stopped to help me. So every practice, I would just keep running around this big track, and I would be having, what I didn't know is I was having an anxiety attack. Slowly it got worse and worse. Even after I left the team, some of those feelings of dread and worry followed me around like a dark cloud. My 8th grade year, everything just went downhill. I felt like I couldn't focus in classes. I felt like I had nothing to live for. I was worthless. I had no purpose in life.
Overnight, was in a car accident. And then later we found out through the sheriff or through the state police that the report had actually come out that there was a witness involved, and that the witness had seen my cousin drive off the road. He actually aimed his car towards a tree and crashed his car that way. I believe he was wearing his seatbelt though. So once he was pretty disoriented when, after the car accident, the witness had stopped and asked if he was okay. He had called 911, and when the witness and my cousin were standing on the side of the road, my cousin stepped in front of traffic.
I want to go back to the beginning of freshman year, right before school started. I had a very toxic friendship with a guy from my church, and he called me unattractive, and we were like best friends, and to me this was shocking because I'd never heard that before. And I mean, I was dressing, I was wearing ponytails like every day and like sweats and stuff. I didn't care what people thought about me, and then all of a sudden I was so in my head about, oh, like people are looking at me and judging me and critiquing everything I do. And that just kept spiraling, and all these thoughts kept racing through my head. And then in freshman year, I was self-harming, and I was super depressed. And I didn't really have many friends because those friends that I did have, I pushed away. and I was not actively trying to make new friends. Then sophomore year came, and I had another toxic friendship, and I had a lot of anxiety, mainly social. I couldn't go out, I didn't want to go out, I didn't want to talk to people. I just kind of wanted to stay in myself and not do anything about that. And I was still self-harming. I want to say about April, I had a huge falling out with my best friend, and my boyfriend at the time had been seeing this girl, or not seeing her really, just hanging out with her, that was making physical threats to me. And it was just such a mess, and it was not a good time. And I did attempt suicide the night after we had a huge fight with my best friend.
I've always grown up as like the shy kid, and I never really realized that it was a bigger problem than that. I wouldn't be able to talk to anyone. If I was at restaurants, I would have to whisper in people's ears and have them order for me. I would go like mute sometimes, like just stop talking, and I wouldn't be able to like explain myself, so people might have like thought it was intentional, and it was like really struggling with that. And I eventually found out that it was social anxiety that I was diagnosed with, and that brought on a whole like skew of other problems. Dysthymia, which is also known as persistent depressive disorder, and generalized anxiety, and in the works of other things.
I have a family history of mental illness, just anxiety and depression, and it's really affected my life, and particularly in college. It was my third year away. I had a pretty tough summer. I was away all summer doing a drum corps. It's a performing group. I play the trumpet, and it was a great experience, but I fractured my hip in 3 places and was told I couldn't dance for an entire year, couldn't march again, all that stuff, and that was a lot. At the same time, I was in a house that I didn't want to be in away at school. I had the last pick for housing, so that was another factor. And then I didn't know what I wanted my major to be. I had switched it like 3 times. I was super stressed about that and was freaking out a little bit. So I got really depressed and didn't want to leave my bed, was really anxious all the time whenever I did, wasn't socializing like I usually do.
I talked to Beth Packer. She was a lifesaver. And then Beth put me in touch with a doctor. She says, I'm going to give you the number of a doctor I think can help you, with no medication. And so when I saw that doctor, he actually did some things that retrained my brain. It took you 57 years to get to where you are now, gradually got that way. He says, it's going to take some time to retrain it back to where it's supposed to be. And it took 8 months, but he did it. I'm going on airplanes, I'm going fishing to Canada, I'm sleeping like a baby. It's been amazing, amazing.
I had a mental breakdown, and that was when I finally told someone that I had been struggling with suicidal thoughts for many years. I started to get help. My pediatrician assigned me medication, and I started going to therapy. So junior year, new medication, I got more involved with school. Like, I started partaking in more activities, becoming more involved in my work. And that definitely led to an immediate change. I realized the busier that I was, the more involved I was, the more I was around people, the happier I got. And the more work I did, the more involved I got. I started to like myself more because I felt like I was actually making a difference, like I did have a purpose.
And he had been struggling with kind of depressing thoughts for a while, but no one really identified it, that he was suicidal or that he was even contemplating, because he put on this persona the entire time that he was happy. He had this like ridiculously infectious laugh that, you would never see depression in my cousin. So when we learned about the suicide, something that we all had we almost had like this guilt feeling of like, what should I have done? What could have I done to prevent this? And we, a lot of us kept playing the what if game. It's just a dangerous question to ask. It isn't right to ask yourself that question. When someone chooses this decision, it's not any one person's fault.
My boyfriend at the time told Mrs. Packer, our social worker, and I went straight to Linden Oaks. Honestly, that was such a great thing for me. All the people were just really helpful, and the medicine definitely helped too. And I have a great therapist named Christy. I realized how big of a problem it was in our community, and especially in our school system. There's so much pressure to succeed and do the best and to impress everyone. And I realized that I need to make a change.
Around this time last year, actually, I ended up getting a therapist after talking to my parents about it, and it was a really tough discussion because I had never let anyone in my family know what I've been struggling with. But it was really good because I got to see someone who actually understood me and who wouldn't judge me for anything that I was saying, and who was there for supporting me. And I went weekly for a really long time. I also am on medication for my anxiety, which has been really, really helpful. Obviously, that's not going to solve everything, so I'm still working on myself, and it's the addition of therapy, medication, and trying self-improvements that's been helping me get much better for sure.
So I started talking to my mom. My mom and I are really close, so I felt like I could talk to her about anything. I really trust her. And she suggested I go see a counselor at school, which I was really apprehensive about because I'm a really independent person and don't really like speaking my mind all the time. But I did it. Reached out to the counselor, and through all that, my mom, counselor, dean of the school, we decided it was time for me to just go home, take a break, take care of myself. So I left college, went back home, moved home, started seeing a counselor regularly, which was really great for me. And then I got a new job teaching little kids how to dance, and from there I figured out that dance and teaching PE was exactly what I wanted to do. So going home, even though at the time when I made that decision was a really tough decision, it led to everything I'm doing today. I figured out what I wanted to do. Things have just gone up for me so much since I really decided to take that time to reach out and advocate for myself.
If I was to talk to a student right here, I would say, do not keep it to yourself. Talk to people. This is an issue that somebody can help you. I mean, you don't want this to be happening to you. I'd talk to as many people as I could because somebody might have an answer to get rid of this.
It's a lifelong struggle, but there is a fight you can put up against it. Everybody has a purpose. You might not know what that is yet, but you just have to keep climbing. Find people that you feel happy with. You need to get out of toxic relationships that just drag you down. You need to find people that love you for who you are. You need to find people that'll stick through you thick and thin. You need to find people who will help you climb up the mountain. It's hard to find, but once you do, you feel so much better, because going through it alone is torture. Nobody deserves to be alone in a time of need.
I would tell students, don't be afraid to ask probing questions, and just to be outright and ask, are you planning on killing yourself? And not just do you plan on harming yourself or anything like that, but are you having suicidal thoughts? Because if they're not, then they're gonna say no. And if they are, hopefully they're honest with you and you can then point them into the right direction.
Everyone's going through their own struggles, and you shouldn't feel alone or like you can't talk about it, because I didn't tell anyone for 2 years how I was feeling. And that just ate me up inside, and that's why it got so bad. If I had just told someone earlier, I think it could have been prevented. It might have not gotten that bad, that you're not alone. Everyone is going through something, and you might not see it because people put on a fake smile and they put on the mask, and it's tough, but you need to tell someone, because that's the only way you're going to get better. It's like a physical disease, and that's what people don't see. They think it's it's not real because it's in your head, but it's the same as, you know, getting an illness that needs to be cured. It's there, it's real.
Mental health doesn't discriminate. Like, it can get anyone at any time, and like anyone that needs to pursue help really should, because internalizing it is just going to make everything worse. Don't be afraid to get help. I sat in fear for way too long, and like I think things, obviously, like I'm happy with my life right now, but I think things could have turned out better way quicker if I wouldn't have waited. Therapy is beneficial for almost everyone. Doesn't matter if you're mentally ill, doesn't matter like if you're just having like a normal day or anything. Like, it's nice to be able to talk to someone and like just get things out. It's healthy to release, and it's like a good way of like coping with stuff. People with mental health issues are no different than someone with like a physical health issue.
Reach out to anybody else that they trust, for one, and two, it's okay. Like, I struggled for the longest time thinking that something was wrong with me and people were going to judge me because I didn't want to go out and I didn't want to do the things that I used to do, and I was super anxious all the time. But it's okay for those feelings to happen. It's not something that should be looked down upon. It's okay to feel down sometimes. You just got to reach out to people and have those people have trust in them to get you back up. Asking for help is one of the strongest things you can do. I mean, you're advocating for yourself, which is exactly what you need if you're struggling.
Where can you turn for help if you are having struggles with your emotional health? You need to realize that you are not alone. There are many resources and ways to find the help you need. The place to start is by talking to someone.
Remember, the most important thing is you are not alone.